恭敬大德圣定，为此发挥为此发挥自一切众生，经算妙法论，教导我们如何了生脱死离苦得乐，殊人无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss, and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati sanmya sanputo che. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one. Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, and all good knowing advisors, Amitabha, welcome back to our lecture on the Dharma, using the Sutra of the Medicine Master Buddha, Vaidurya Light, Tathagata. Okay, yes, that's it. All right, let me get today's slides. What I have today is we're going to start off with something which is fairly, the word is chim. Chim means a combination of advanced, it's going to be very deep. For some people, it's going to be very philosophical or even illogical, but we'll figure it out, okay? And then after that, we go to something easier. But we're going to start with something heavy first. What kind of heavy? All right, if you all look at your screen, this is the Buddha on dependent origination. Okay, so I'm going to ask you this question. All right, it says, when this exists, that comes to be. with the arising of this, that arises. Okay, you got that so far, this and that. When this does not exist, that does not come to be. With the cessation of this, that ceases. Okay, what is this and what is that? Anyone want to try?
I think Dharma Master, what Buddha refers to here is your mind. Watch your mind, how it comes and it goes.
Okay, good try. Anyone else?
I have another thing that could be also is if one world exists, the other one will be gone, something like that.
Say that again. When one world?
Yeah, so nothing is everything is impermanent. Nothing is forever. Let's say if one world exists, another world will be gone. Like everything is impermanent and it comes and goes all the time. Nothing is forever.
Okay. Yes, no, yes, as in what you said is half correct. It doesn't mean like one thing goes, one thing comes, another thing will be gone. It doesn't, that's not quite accurate. But to say that all things are impermanent, yes. And that's related to dependent origination because everything is conditioned. But it's not the answer to what is this and what is that. Okay. So the question, what is this and what is that? The answer is exactly. Do you all get it? When you ask, what is this and what is that? The answer is yes, exactly. Why? Why? It's not a trick question, okay? It's not a trick question. Why do I say that? It's because of ignorance. When you're ignorant, you don't know anything, right? Yes. So when you have the question why, or what, or how, or when, in this case, it is what is this and what is that. That's why I say precisely or exactly, because it starts from ignorance, and we're going to find out. Okay, so we are still on the theme of gender, all right, but we are going to go. How would I say? We're going to. It's related because we are talking about a female. We are discussing about a female gender. So I have a sutra for you. And the reason why we're going deep is because of one of the questions that was asked recently in the WeChat group for our Dharma brothers and sisters in China. And they were asking about what's the origin of, I can't remember the exact question, but like what's the beginning point of like where do people come from and things like that. Like how does everything come from? How does everything arise? Something like that. So it's a very deep, it was a very simple question, but the answer is very deep. Okay, without wasting anyone's time, okay, let's go to the next slide. This is called the Sutra on the Questions of Srimati, the Brahmin Woman. I'm sharing this sutra for various reasons. One of them is to show that this is just one example of a sutra, but there are many sutras like this where the Buddha has very deep conversations with women. And there's a twist at the end of the sutra because the Buddha reveals that Srimati has made a vow in one of her past lives to always get reborn in a female body. So she's female by choice. All right, she's not bound by her karma, or you could say that she has learned how to adjust her karmic conditions so that she can fulfill her vow of always being reborn as a woman in life after life. All right? Okay. So, just bear with us as we go to this sutra because it builds up a picture of the level of wisdom of this woman called Srimati. And Srimati was not, in this sutra, she's not she doesn't come from a well-to-do family. She's actually from a poor family. And it's not like a, how you say, like royalty or well-to-do, not like that at all. So, says that the Buddha went steadily through the city of Varanasi gathering alms. He arrived at the house of a Brahmin woman by the name of Srimati. She saw from afar, okay, this is not the full sutra, this is just an excerpt. So she saw from afar that the Blessed One was beautiful and inspiring, his senses at peace and his heart at peace. He was gentle. So she found the Buddha to be, she recognized the 32 major hallmarks of the Buddha. And because of that, she wanted to get close to the Buddha in a good way. All right. So seeing the Buddha so different from other people, she was inspired. She went to the Buddha. She bowed at the Buddha's feet, and then she also bowed at, guess who? The Bodhisattva great being Ajita, the Maha Bodhisattva Ajita. Who is Ajita? Ajita is also known as Maitreya and the future Buddha. So she paid respects to the Buddha and to Maitreya Bodhisattva, and then she invited both of them back to her home. So at her home, she bowed towards the Blessed One with joint palms and said, Blessed One, I have heard that the Blessed One turned the wheel of Dharma at Rispatana Deer Park near the city of Varanasi. Blessed One, what Dharma did the Blessed One teach? If I'm not mistaken, she's referring to one of the first few Dharma sutras that the Buddha spoke. Excuse me, I have my throat is a bit dry. Let me drink some water. So she's asking the Buddha to repeat that teaching to her. All right. So the Buddha said this. Said, Srimati, it is this. Okay. Oh, sorry. Let me go to the next slide, which is a better formatted version. So what did the Buddha answer? The Buddha gave her what is known as dependent origination, or the 12 conditioned links. Sometimes you see it in Sanskrit as Pratiyasama Pada. Sounds the same in Pali almost. It's a very, very important mechanism or principle in Buddhism, because not only does it explain what goes on in the mind, but it can also explain what goes on in your life from birth to death. So it's both macro and micro. Did I use those terms right? Yeah. So what it is, the Buddha said, through the condition of ignorance. So I numbered it, and because there are total 12. Okay, 12 condition links, also known as 12 condition links. So the Buddha says, through the condition of ignorance, there are formations. How do we understand that? It's not because of ignorance there is formations. I used to think that, so don't make the same mistake as I did. But rather, it's more accurate to say that ignorance conditions formation. So formations are conditioned by ignorance. So it influences, ignorance influences formations. Okay? All right. So you have ignorance, and then you have which influence formations, and then through the condition of formations, there is consciousness. So it goes on. There's a list of 12. So there's consciousness, there's name and form. What is name and form? Name and form, in other words, are the 5 skandhas, or the 5 aggregates. It is form is form, as you know, physical, the world and our body, and then name is our mental processes, so name and form. Then number 5, the 6 sense sources, or the 6 sense bases, our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body and mind. And then there's contact, then there's sensation, then there's craving, then there's grasping, then there's becoming, then there's rebirth or birth, and then there's old age and death, which leads to the whole mass of suffering. The Buddha says only great heaps of suffering come about. So the reason I'm sharing this is because the question from the WeChat group asks where, like the origins of life, something like that, that kind of question. And if you understand it from the Abhidhamma point of view and from dependent co-origination or dependent origination, depending on how it's translated, it's a loop. It begins with ignorance, but you could say it also ends with ignorance, or ignorance is in the middle, because think of it like a circle. There's no end to it. And if someone were to ask the question, but what was before ignorance? Okay, where does ignorance come from? What happened before ignorance came about? That question is not valid, because to suggest that there's a point of existence that existed before ignorance, it were to mean that that person is enlightened. And by default, that logic will also say an enlightened being then gives rise to ignorance and rebirth, and the whole mass of suffering come about, all life in samsara. But that cannot happen, because there are sutras where the Buddha mentions once a person is awakened, that's it. There's no falling back. Okay, so there's sutras that says there's beginningless time, we have all revolved in samsara on the wheel of birth and death. That is why. Okay, so from the Abhinama point of view, there is no point before ignorance, because conditioned by ignorance, there's just ignorance. What's behind the ignorance? More ignorance. And what is ignorance defined as? Ignorance is defined as the lack of understanding of the Four Noble Truths. And when it says lack of understanding, it is not, oh, I read about the Four Noble Truths and then I know what the Four Noble Truths are. Knowing is different from understanding. We'll get to that. Okay, so I told you we are getting into, suddenly you jump in and you find that there's no bottom in the swimming pool. You know, this is where we are right now. Don't worry. Okay, part of this is just to show how wise this Srimati is when we get to her questions. Okay, and then the other part is to relate this back to the Q&A from the WeChat which I shared with everyone else. That's all. If you are interested, then you can pay attention. But if this is confusing to you, don't worry. You'll just go through it and we'll get to the end. All right. But if you have any questions, okay, if you have any questions at all, please just unmute your microphone at any time or just type into the chat box. Okay. All right. So now where are we? The Buddha just told Srimati that he was teaching what is known as dependent origination. The formula, this is the formula to life. If you want to know what is the formula to samsara, samsaric life, to birth and death, this is the formula. All right? Then, Srimati, the Brahmin woman, asked the Blessed One, Blessed One, is ignorance something internal or something external? Does it come from inside you or does it come from outside you? And the Buddha said it is neither, Srimati. Then she asked another question. If ignorance is neither internal nor external, then how does something non-existent act as a condition for formations? Are there any phenomena that are beyond this world, Blessed One? So you get a question. It says if ignorance is not internal or external, that means it doesn't exist. So it's non-existent. How can something which does not exist act as a condition or conditions to the following step in the formula, which is formation? It doesn't make sense. That's what she's saying. So she says, is there any phenomena that is beyond this world? And then the Buddha said, no, they are not, Srimati. Okay. Then she comes back with more questions. She says, does ignorance have features? Okay, because she's trying to figure out, is it really non-existent? So she's saying, does it have any features? That means, can you come to understand ignorance? I would say it does not, Srimati. Ignorance comes about in a false manner. It does not come about in a true manner. You know, the tricky thing about ignorance is what? We don't know that we are ignorant. That's the tricky thing about the factor of ignorance. Because we lack knowledge of our ignorance, we are ignorant about our own ignorance. That's why it's called ignorance. All right? Okay, see if you can wrap your head around that. It's like a snake trying to eat its tail. Okay, then Buddha says ignorance comes about in a mistaken manner. So it's both false and mistaken. It does not come about in an unmistaken manner. Okay, so she's asking, how can something come from nothing, right? How can something come from a non-existent thing? It doesn't make sense. Okay. So the next question is, if ignorance is non-existent, then where do formations come from? And where does suffering come from? The Blessed One, let me share an analogy. If a banyan tree has no roots, how do its boughs, leaves, and branches develop? Boughs means the main branches, the big branches, maybe even possibly the trunk, but is usually defined as the main branches. I don't think she's giving this metaphor for the sake of the Buddha. It's more for the sake of everyone else who's going to try to figure out what's going on. And then she says, in a similar manner, Blessed One, if ignorance has not come into being and is not existent, how can it act as the condition for formations? All right. Same question asked in different ways. Okay, so now this is the Buddha's answer. Indeed, Srimati, replied the Blessed One, all phenomena are empty of inherent characteristics. Nevertheless, childish, ordinary beings, which means all of us, who lack learning, knowledge, and realization, bring about the formation of karma. Through this karma, cyclic existence manifests, and due to cyclic existence, these beings end up experiencing suffering, but there is no one who forms karma, nor is there any act of manifesting cyclic existence. All right? This is the ultimate nature of phenomena. In other words, all phenomena is false. It's just like ignorance. It's non-existent. Okay. Then the Buddha says, however, Srimati, Buddhas, being concerned with how beings can realize the ultimate nature, in other words, awakening or enlightenment, resort to convention to teach beings the Dharma. What is convention? Expedience. What are expedients? Everything the Buddha taught was an expedient. If you read the Lotus Sutra, that's what the Buddha says. Expedient means the provisional meaning or the truth. It's not the truth itself. Okay, for example, if you watch a movie, all right, if you watch a movie, there are certain movies that have subtitles, but these are not subtitles that reflect what the people are saying. I think it's called hearing. I think there's a term SDH. I'm not sure what SDH means, but it's for people who can't hear. Does anyone know what these subtitles are? It will say, oh, music playing, dramatic music playing in the background, and it will say things like people are arguing in the background or gunshots heard, something like that. It's for people who can't hear, so the subtitles fill in the explain what is going on in terms of sound. But it doesn't, just reading the subtitles doesn't, it's very far removed from actually what is going on for people who can hear. All right, so that's what provisional means. It doesn't mean the truth is, but it's just like a shadow of an object. All right, so it's not. That's why it's called provisional or conventional or convention. Okay, and this is why I said when people ask difficult questions in the WhatsApp group, sometimes I know the answer and I can explain the answer, but it doesn't mean that I understand, because from self-experience, I have no idea. I only know in terms of the theory. I only know in terms of what the words mean, and I can explain in sometimes maybe very convincing ways. But deep down inside, I know I have no clue, no idea. Yeah. All right. Okay. So now, let's go on. Buddha says, however, Srimati, convention or expedience is not true or are not true. Why not? Because there is no one to comprehend it and no act of coming to understand it. Take the following analogy, Srimati. The dust gone one, or the Buddha, projects an emanation of himself, which then in turn projects an emanation of itself. So two projections. Or what they call it in DRBA speak, we call it what's the term? Oh, I suddenly just forgot. What's the name when a bodhisattva creates a body? Oh, I just forgot that term. I'm going to call on Chui. Chui, what, when the bodhisattva creates another body, is Chui there?
Yeah, what do you mean? Another body, meaning to say transformation body?
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, exactly. Transformation body. Yes, thank you, Chui. Yeah. So here the Buddha is saying he creates one transformation body, and then that transformation body creates another transformation body. All right. So Buddha says the emanation or transformation body projected by the Buddha is hollow, that is, of a false and deceptive nature. The transformation body projected by the transformation body, the second transformation body, is also hollow, that is, of a false and deceptive nature. It says in a similar manner, Srimati, that excuse me, that which conditions phenomena is hollow. In other words, that which creates our entire world is hollow. That is, of a false and deceptive nature. The conditioned phenomena are also hollow, that is, of a false and deceptive nature. Okay, how do we try to understand this? Okay, think of a dream. All right, instead of thinking of transformation body, just think of a dream. In your dream, okay, your mind transforms people into existence, right? In your dream, you are interacting with people. In your dream, there are buildings, there are clothes you wear, or sometimes in a dream you don't wear clothes. You do things in a dream. You talk, you hear, you see, but all those are false, right? So within your dream, your mind is creating an entire world. That's what the Buddha is trying to get at. Our existence is conditioned. It is as if we are all dreaming right now. In terms of principle, it's the same thing. Okay? But the problem is we all get attached because we think it's real. Why? Because we are ignorant. We don't know the reality of things. So imagine if you are caught in a dream that you cannot wake up from. All right? Say like I won't say it's a coma because comas are not like that, but you combine the coma and the dream. Okay? You cannot wake up and you are stuck in a dream. So things like karma, the Buddha is trying to explain, things like karma, cause and effect are just the, the way the dream is built. But if you can wake up from your dream, you realize that, oh, they're all empty. All right? So that's the one way, okay, that we can use our own experience in our current lives to try to figure out what it is that the Buddha is saying. But just bear in mind, whatever we can figure out are like those hearing assisted subtitles. Okay, they are no substitute for actually hearing what's going on. Okay, but it gives you an idea. All right. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Then Srimati said, the Blessed One has turned the wheel of emptiness, the wheel of emancipation, the wheel of certainty, the wheel of inconceivability, etc., etc. And then after she had praised the Buddha, she sprinkled a handful of sandalwood powder at the Buddha's feet. And she said, Blessed One, by this root of virtue, may I too in the future turn the wheel of Dharma in that way. She wants to be just like the Buddha. Okay? And then at this, the Buddha smiled. As is the nature of the blessed Buddhas when they smile, as he smiled, lights of many colors, blue, white, red, crimson, and the colors of crystal and silver streamed from his mouth, filling and illuminating worlds without end all the way up to the Brahma realms before returning, circling the Blessed One 3 times and dissolving into the crown of his head. So the light came out from his mouth, went around the entire world, all the way up to the Brahma worlds, and then came back and entered into the Buddha's head. Then Maitreya Bodhisattva said to the Buddha, I said, Blessed One, thus gone worthy and perfect Buddhas do not smile without cause and condition. That means they don't, everything that the Buddha does is has a reason. So even when they smile, there's a reason behind it. So he asked the Buddha, why do you smile? And then the Buddha said, Jita, did you see Srimati, the Brahmin woman, take a handful of sandalwood and offered it at his feet. So the Buddha said, through her roots of virtue, this Brahmin woman will not fall back into the lower realms for 840 million eons. She will honor, venerate, respect, and worship 64,000 Buddhas. She will listen to the Dharma from them. She will retain what she hears and fully master the true Dharma. She will greatly worship the dusk gone ones who are present and those who have passed into parinirvana. She will place countless innumerable beings in the state of awakening. In other words, she will become a bodhisattva. All right. In a future life, during the eon known as self-luminous, she will appear in this great trichilocosm as a dusk gone one, worthy and perfect Buddha known as luminous Dharma, whose lifespan will be equal to 1,000 eons, and after working for the benefit of countless innumerable beings, she will pass into parinirvana, the expanse of nirvana without any remainder of the aggregates. So the Buddha just gave her a prediction of her Buddhahood. You get a prediction of Buddhahood. Okay, I'm not sure. Like I said, I know certain things, but I don't understand. I'm not sure, but my best guess is when someone, their karmic seeds are aligned in such a way. Usually, you have to be a first stage arhat, a stream enterer. When that happens, because your certain levels of ignorance have been eliminated, like the mistaken self, you no longer have that, the ignorance of a self, or you no longer make the mistake of assuming the 5 aggregates as the self. All right, that's more accurate. Then certain things will align and you start doing things the right way. And from there, the Buddha can see, okay, this person will no longer go around in circles, will no longer take 1 step forward and 2 steps back, but will always proceed. And then you can get a prediction of Buddhahood. Okay, that's my theory. All right. Then the Bodhisattva great being Ajita asked the Buddha, did Srimati, the Brahmin woman, previously possess other roots of virtue? Then she did, Ajita, replied the Buddha. In her desire for unsurpassed and perfect awakening, Srimati, the Brahmin woman, in a previous life as a woman, offered a garland of flowers to the dusk gone one Vipassin. Right now, we are going to go through a few names of past Buddhas. These are the past 6 Buddhas before Shakyamuni Buddha in our current time period. Then she offered robes to the Buddha Sikhin, and then went forth as a renunciant in his teaching, so became a nun. Practiced the holy life for 1,000 years and questioned that Blessed One on profound topics, just like how she questioned Shakyamuni Buddha. She offered food to the dusk gone one, Visabhu, and his assembly of hearers, serving them to their satisfaction. So this is another Buddha. And then another Buddha, she offered Ati Taka flowers before the Buddha Krakuchanda, and from that Blessed One received the 5 basic precepts. To the Buddha Kanakamuni, she offered garments, meals, bathing, medicine, and supplies throughout his life. That Blessed One partook of her meals for 2 months, and she also offered him a pair of sandals. In her desire for unsurpassed and perfect awakening, she threw a golden rosary before the Buddha Kashyapa and made the aspiration, until I am prophesied to reach unsurpassed and perfect awakening, I will not inhabit any other form than that of a woman. There you go. All right, so don't the question of gender in Buddhism is not so simple or straightforward, okay? Because people like Srimati has made vows before to life after life until she becomes a Buddha herself, to always be in the body of a woman, okay? All right. At this point, all right, does anyone have any questions? Dependent origination can be a bit deep, especially the way she asked the questions, because those are very profound topics in Buddhism. Okay, now I have something a bit more fun. Okay, I have something from the Vimalakirti Sutra. Okay, 2 weeks ago I think 2 weeks ago we looked at Venerable Shariputra in the Lotus Sutra. Now we look at Venerable Shariputra again, but this is in the Vimalakirti Sutra. So at this section of the sutra, Manjushri Bodhisattva asked Vimalakirti, for those of you who don't know who Vimalakirti is, this sutra, or the Vimalakirti Sutra, is about a lay person known as Vimalakirti. He seems like a lay person, okay, but in fact he is a bodhisattva, and he was sick. He fell sick. So the Buddha said, "Oh, Vimalakirti is sick. Someone should go pay a visit and ask how he is on my behalf." And everyone didn't want to go. The Buddha would ask a certain person, and the certain person would say, "Oh, I'm afraid to go to see Vimalakirti because his wisdom is so great. The last time I went to see him, he asked me a lot of questions and I couldn't answer him, and it was very embarrassing." So they declined the Buddha's request. So one by one, the Buddha would say, "Can you go and see Vimalakirti on my behalf?" And I said, no, I don't dare, or I don't want to be embarrassed again. And it would explain what happened. So it's a very entertaining sutra because it's very deep. Vimalakirti, being a bodhisattva, would break their attachments to their views which they didn't even know they had. You see, ignorance. They weren't aware of their own ignorance. So until it came to Manjushri Bodhisattva. And Manjushri Bodhisattva is known as foremost in wisdom among the bodhisattvas. And when Manjushri Bodhisattva said, "Fine, okay, if no one dares go and inquire after Vimalakirti, I will do it." And when he said that, everyone got very excited, because you have the bodhisattva foremost in wisdom, and you have a lay person who's actually a bodhisattva in disguise, who's also foremost in wisdom. So they said, "Oh, we are going to be in for a rare treat when people of such great wisdom talk. It's going to be amazing." So everyone then followed Manjushri Bodhisattva to listen to the conversation. Okay, so I think this is chapter 7, if I'm not mistaken, of the Vimalakirti Sutra. So if you haven't read the Vimalakirti Sutra, I highly, highly recommend that you get your hands on a copy. All right. So Vimalakirti replied, "A bodhisattva should contemplate living beings just as a magician regards the people he conjures." There you go again. Okay, remember we just came from the other sutra. A bodhisattva should contemplate living beings just as a wise man regards the moon's reflection in water, his face in a mirror, a mirage, an echo, clouds in the sky, a mass of foam, bubbles in water, the solid core of the plantain tree. This is a trick. It's a trick phrase, because a plantain tree is a banana plant. And if you cut open a banana plant, you realize there's no such thing as a solid core, so it doesn't exist. And it says the permanence of lightning. Okay, lightning just is a flash of lightning. There's no permanence in it. A fifth great element. There's heat, there's air, there is water or moisture, and what else? What is there? Earth. There's no fifth. There's only 4. A 6 skandha. There's only 5 skandhas. No 6 skandha. So you get the picture. All right. That's how Vimalakirti is replying. Says a bodhisattva should regard living beings in this way. All right, just like all the living beings in your dreams. Okay, except that you now know when you're dreaming, all the living beings in your dream are not real. Even the you in your dream is not real, right? When you are dreaming, you don't know. So right now, okay, we are all dreaming. We think everything is real, but the Buddha says no, it's not. Yeah. Okay, going on. At that time, there was a goddess in Vimalakirti's room. Okay, seeing those great bodhisattvas listen to the Dharma being taught, she manifested herself and showered heavenly flowers upon the bodhisattvas and Shravakas. So this is where the story really begins. The flowers that rained on the bodhisattvas all fell to the floor, but those that rained on the Shravakas remained and did not fall to the floor. What are Shravakas? Shravakas here refer to the arhats, sound hearers. Shravaka literally means sound hearers. We are all sound hearers. Oops, excuse me. You all heard that sound? Sound hearer. Sound hearers because we learn the Dharma through hearing. Okay, so sound hearers, Shravakas. So here, but in this sutra, the Shravakas means the arhats. Even with all their spiritual powers, the Shravakas could not remove them. So the flowers just stuck to them. Then the goddess asked Shariputra, why do you want to remove these flowers? Why is the goddess singling out Venerable Shariputra? I guess maybe she realized that Venerable Shariputra was the right candidate. Venerable Shariputra, if you remember from last week, of all the Buddha's disciples, in terms of sound hearer disciples, not the Bodhisattvas, Venerable Shariputra is known as foremost in wisdom. So in sutras like this, like the Vimalakirti Sutra, Shariputra represents all of us, although he is not all of us because he's already an arhat. But in terms of wisdom, he is used as an example to showcase the ignorance of living beings, okay, as compared to the Bodhisattvas. So Shariputra replied, these flowers are not in accord with the Dharma, so I'm trying to remove them. Okay, why does he say that? Well, if you have taken the Bodhisattva precepts or if you are a monk, you can't adorn yourself. It's not right to adorn yourself. So flowers is a form of adornment. So Shariputra here is saying that, oh, we shouldn't be adorned. So he wants to remove them. So the goddess replied, do not say these flowers are not in accord with the Dharma. Why? These flowers do not discriminate. It's just a flower. It says, it is you, humane one, meaning Venerable Shariputra, who gives rise to discrimination. When those who have left the home life to follow the Buddha Dharma makes discriminations, this is not in accord with the Dharma. The absence of discrimination is in accord with the Dharma. See these bodhisattvas, to whom the flowers do not attach. This is because they have cut off all discrimination. All right? In other words, what she's saying is that you can say that the flowers here is a metaphor for our attachments. We get attached to the world. So the world sticks to us. We can't let go. Okay? So in the sixth Petra, there's kind of a similar saying. It says, if your mind is pure, say ordinary deluded people, that's what the sixth Petra says. It says, unaware of our essential nature, we don't realize that the pure land is within ourselves. Why? Because of our discrimination. So same principle. Okay. Let me see. Okay, moving on. The goddess says this is like how when people are afraid, non-humans may gain control of them. I think it's like possession, something like that. In the same way, when people are afraid of birth and death, then forms, sounds, scents, flavors, and tangible objects may gain control of them. Okay, what does form, sound, sense, excuse me, flavors and tangible objects mean? It means our world around us. So because we are afraid of birth and death, we are still ignorant. We don't know what even birth and death actually means. We allow the world to control us instead of we being in control. Then she says, those who have transcended fear cannot be controlled by the 5 desires. Because you have yet to put an end to your habitual afflictions, these flowers stick to you. They will not stick to those who have put an end to their habitual afflictions. Okay? Alright. Then Shariputra asked the goddess, of the 3 vehicles, which one do you aspire to? Okay, I'm not sure why Shariputra asked such a question. Maybe he's asking for trouble. Excuse me, I need to drink some water. Or maybe he's not sure whether he can trust the answers given by the goddess. So she said, I teach living beings through the through the Dharma of Shravakas. So I'm a Shravaka. For our understanding, it means that she's teaching beings, say the Theravada canon, Okay, the Pali Canon. So she says she's a sound hearer because of that. So she's a Theravada practitioner. Then she says, I teach living beings through dependent arising. So I am a Prachika Buddha. Okay, so Prachika Buddhas, or solitary enlightened ones, are people who awaken to their self-nature or get enlightened when there is no Dharma in the world. When there is no Buddha, but someone is able to practice well due to conditions from past lives, what they enlighten to are the 12 conditioned links or dependent co-arising. They understand the formula, they penetrate through reality, and they understand the formula behind all of existence. Yes, that's one way. That's the right way to put it. Yes. So they discover the formula, and the formula is dependent origination. Then she says, I teach living beings through the Dharma of great compassion, so I'm a practitioner of the great vehicle. So you see how she answers Venerable Shariputra. She said, Shariputra, just as those who enter a forest filled with champaka flowers smell only champaka fragrance and no other fragrance, in the same way, those who enter this room will only delight in the fragrance of the Buddha's merit and will not delight in the fragrance of the Shravakas or Prachika Buddha's merit. Shariputra, all the chakras, Brahmas, 4 heavenly kings, gods, dragons, ghosts, and spirits who have come here to listen to the proper Dharma, taught by this venerable person, will delight in the fragrance of the Buddha's merit and leave this room having resolved upon awakening. So it's not just the monks and the audience during the Buddha's, in front of the Buddha, who wanted to listen to what was the conversation between Vimalakirti and Manjushri Bodhisattva, but she said there's a lot more beings around. Then Shariputra said, why have you not transformed your female body? Okay, so Shariputra is saying, okay, if you are as great as you say you are, okay, I'm paraphrasing, but then why are you in a female body? Okay, very big question from Shariputra, Venerable Shariputra. So the goddess replied, for 12 years I have sought the female state of being or the attributes of a female body, but in vain. What is there to transform? Suppose a magician conjured a woman and someone were to ask her, why don't you transform your female body? Would that person be asking a proper question? Venerable Shariputra said, no, an illusion does not have any fixed form. How could it transform? Okay, remember the beings in your dreams? All right, same principle. All right, okay. The goddess said, likewise, all phenomena are like an illusion without any fixed form. So how can you ask me, why have you not transformed your female body? So she's saying, Shariputra, if you truly understand that all forms have no basis in themselves, why are you asking this question in the first place? So then the goddess used her spiritual powers to transform Shariputra's appearance into her own, while she assumed the appearance of Shariputra. Then she asked him, why don't you transform your female body? You know what this is like? There's a movie. I remember there's a movie a long time ago where a man and a woman, somehow or other, their bodies got mixed up. The man woke up and found himself in the woman's body, and the woman woke up and found herself in the man's body. It's a very old movie. I don't remember the title of the movie. But that's exactly what she did. Okay, she transformed Shariputra into her, and she gave Shariputra a woman's body because Shariputra asked her, why is she still in a woman's body? And she took the appearance of Venerable Shariputra. Excuse me. Then she said, then Shariputra, who now looked like the goddess, replied, how have I been transformed into this female form? She doesn't know what happened. That's why I said, if you can get your hands on the Vimalakirti Sutra, highly recommended that you try to read it. The goddess replied, Shariputra, if you can transform this female body, then all women should be able to transform theirs. Just as you, Shariputra, who are not a woman, now appear in a female body, so it is for all women who appear to have female bodies but are not women. Therefore, the Buddha said, phenomena are neither male nor female. The goddess then withdrew her spiritual powers, whereupon Shariputra resumed his original form. So she stopped playing the trick on Shariputra. Then she asked Shariputra, where is that female form of yours now? Shariputra replied, the female form, or that female form to be more specific, that female form does not exist. Yes, does not exist. Okay, why he says that? Well, it does not exist because it was like a transformation body that she played a trick on Shariputra. But you couldn't say it does not exist because it did exist as well. Okay, all right. Basically, in another way, you could also say it lies beyond discrimination. It's not real. Okay. Then the goddess said, all phenomena are just like this. They do not exist, yet do not exist. That which does not exist, yet does not exist, was taught by the Buddha. Then Vimalakirti addressed Shariputra, saying, this goddess has made offerings to 92 kotis of Buddhas. She has effortless mastery of all Bodhisattva's spiritual powers, and all her vows have been fulfilled. Having attained the patient acceptance of the non-arising of phenomena, she abides in irreversibility. By virtue of her past vows, she can appear at will and teach living beings. In other words, she has eliminated all her ignorance. Okay, so we have come to the end of slides for today. Actually, I have more slides, but we're kind of out of time. There is a story that I wanted to share, and I've shared this story before, but I never had the right source. But I finally do, and I'm very happy to finally have the source. It's called The Lady with Two Bodies. Okay, again, as this title is like one of those sound hearing subtitles. It's very misleading. Okay, it doesn't tell you much because the lady with two bodies, you immediately think what's going on, like what lady with two bodies, and you can see whatever imagination forms by your mind. I will share this story next week. I promised someone I'm going to share the story today, but as usual, my time management is very lousy. So I'll share it next week. Okay. Questions. I know, Saha, you had a question about the 5 precepts, right? Could you ask your question again?
Yes, Dharma Master. The 5 precepts that I was asking was, what if you take the 5 precepts, 1 or 2 precepts, what happens if you unintentionally break them?
Okay, usually when you take the 5 precepts, there are classes that you can attend. And for every precept, there is a certain set of conditions. For example, intention, that determines if you actually break a precept or not. So let's say stealing. So if you see something on the table and you think, oh, that is yours, and then you pick it up. And after you pick it up, you realize that, oh no, that's not yours. It looks exactly like what you have, but you remember that yours is at home, and so you put it down again. So that does not fulfill the conditions required for it to be regarded as stealing. So you don't break that precept. So when you want to take the precepts, there are classes that you can attend, or sutras. I can send you materials that you can learn what it means if you want to get technical. So it's for peace of mind to know that whether you break a precept or not. Okay, so that's one aspect of breaking on the issue of breaking precepts. The second aspect of breaking precepts is that after if you know you've broken a precept, when you took that thing, you knew what was in your heart. Your intention was that you wanted to steal. And then later you regret and say, oh, I shouldn't have done that, broke the precepts. So you can go in front of a monk or nun, preferably in your case, Saha, because you're a lady, you go to a nun, but if no, then you can go in front of a monk. And then you can confess. And confess is not just, oh, you just say your mistake and you're done with it. It's you repent, and you have to be remorseful, okay? Not as a putting on a show, but you feel that you realize your mistake. And repentance means that you try your best to never do it again. It may be impossible to not do it anymore, because sometimes habits have a way of coming in that makes you realize your mistake when it's too late, especially in the beginning when you learn how to hold the precepts. But repentance means you make a vow to yourself that you will try your best to never let it happen again. So you can repent after you have broken the precept. Okay, then the third aspect is a lot of people, they don't want to take a precept because they're afraid that they might break it. Okay. And they say, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to break this precept. I might as well not take the precept. For instances like that, it's like you're stabbing yourself in the back. It's not on the surface, it may seem like the smart thing to do, but if you look at someone like that, say, okay, someone who's prone to stealing, for example, they like to steal, or they're sincere, they want to stop stealing. Okay, they want to stop stealing, but they're afraid that they may not be able to keep the precept. So they say, oh, so I don't want to take the precept against stealing. So then there's nothing to prevent them from transforming themselves. So they just go on stealing. There's no safeguard for them to change. They don't really want to change. And because of that, it's like, oh, that perverted logic, that crazy logic, that smartness, which is not really smart, get in the way. So if you look at it, take a few steps back and you look at it in terms of a longer period, it's like you're really stabbing yourself in the back. Some people say, oh, I'm afraid I may not keep the Bodhisattva precepts, so I don't want to take the Bodhisattva precepts. And such a wonderful opportunity to realize your potential, to bring out the best in you, because you're just afraid to break one or two precepts, you don't take the Bodhisattva precepts. It's such a shame to harm yourself or deny yourself the opportunity just because you have one or two small fears here and there, And so if you prevent yourself from taking the precepts just because you're afraid you might break it, no one can force you, but you just have to examine your own reasoning to see whether it really makes sense. Is that the best course of action that you want to take for yourself? Do you really care about yourself? Yeah, you have to ask yourself that question. Yeah. Andrew, you wanted to ask a question?
Yeah. So do I take the 5 precepts, or let's say if I take 5 precepts and I fail in one, what happens to the one? Do I take it up again later on?
Okay,
How does it work?
all right. So you try your best, and for some people, they are at a time in their practice where they realize that they cannot fulfill all the 5 precepts. They can only fulfill like 3 or 4, and so okay, fine. You try your best. You take what you can at this moment in your life, but you don't do that to give yourself an excuse to slack. Okay, then you're not doing yourself any favors. But if you try, you say, okay, I give myself 6 months. and I'm going to try my best, say becoming a vegetarian. So it's very hard right now, but I'm going to try my best. I will take 4 precepts. I won't take the precept against killing, but every day I will try my best to become a vegetarian. And then they give themselves 6 months or 3 months or 1 year to see what happens. And then, you know, because they try hard or they apply themselves, they might find 6 months down the road, say, oh, I totally regret not taking the 5 precepts because I didn't realize, you know, that once I applied myself, it's so easy to be a vegetarian. I got used to it so quickly, you know, and then when the next time you can take the 5 precepts, then you can retake the 5 precepts again. Yeah. So you can take some now, or and then you can take the full 5 precepts later. But a word of advice, okay, when it comes to the Dharma, I think all of you know that the Buddha gave us the Dharma for our own benefit, for our own goodness. It's like you want the best for your children, so you teach them certain things for them to follow. Having that in mind, okay, when it comes to certain things like making decisions in the Dharma, like taking the 5 precepts, sometimes if we think too much about it, our thoughts get in the way. Because if you look at the karmic seeds that we plant in our daily lives, okay, just look at yourselves, okay. Every thought that you have plants a karmic seed, right? Every single thought that you have, even if you're not conscious of it, because the thoughts come very quickly, plants a karmic seed. So if you look at yourself today, how many seeds have you planted that has to do with ending birth and death? How many seeds have you planted that has to do with practicing the Dharma? Okay, if you have come to that, because we had a Fahui in the temple today, we had a Shurangama repentance, that doesn't count. Okay, that doesn't count. I'm sorry, because it's unusual. But on a normal day, okay, you be honest with yourself. How many seeds do you plant that has anything to do with reducing your desires or your attachment, moving towards wisdom, which is studying the sutras or reading the sutras and investigating the sutras or the Dharma? All right, compared to how many karmic seeds you plant that has to do with figuring out what to eat, where to go, your work, arguing or idle chatter with your friends and your family and everything else. Because those seeds will bring you back to rebirth. Those seeds will just pull you back into samsara. Okay? So now, when it comes to the Dharma and you are pondering on your decision regarding the Dharma, okay, like whether to take the 5 precepts or the Bodhisattva precepts, things like that, the more you think, the more seeds are going to come that go against the stream, against the flow of the Dharma. Why? Because those are the seeds that you plant every day. Majority of the seeds that you plant are those kind of seeds. They go in the stream of samsara. That's why they say Buddhist practice is going against the flow, going against the stream. I think I have that right, but you get the idea. I may not be accurate in my phrasing, but you understand what I mean. Yeah. Right? So the more you think, the more opportunities. If you put your hand in a bucket full of your karmic seeds, chances are you pluck out seeds that have nothing to do with the Dharma. Okay? So don't think too much. You already know it's good. You know, do yourself a favor. Don't deliberate too much. Just say, I trust in the Buddha, I trust in the Dharma, I trust in the Sangha because I've taken refuge. This is what I should do. Grit your teeth, right? And go do it.
Okay, so what you're suggesting is that instead of doing 1 this year, then next year you do 2, and following year you do 3, you do all 5, and then if you fail in 1, doesn't matter, you try again next year, you try all 5 again.
Yes, if you're sincere. For someone
Yeah.
who's really sincere and they know why they're doing it for their own good, yes. That is what I would suggest. Yeah, but if you know is let's say like when we were in Poland, and at that time in Poland it was very very hard to get vegetarian food. In those cases, then you wouldn't want to force people. You don't want to say that, oh, you have to be vegetarian. Why? Because the conditions are not quite right for that to happen. So you have to adjust. But Andrew, I know you, so I have full confidence that you can become vegetarian, number one. Number two, there are almost everywhere you go in the Klang Valley right now, you can find a vegetarian place. There's you almost can't escape from non-vegetarian food, even if you tried. Yeah. So I would say try your best and think over things in a wholesome way, but don't think too much. Okay, if you think yourself out of it, then stop thinking and just,
Okay. Okay, thank you, Dharma Master. Thank you.
Okay, Saha, you had one more question?
Yes, Dharma Master. I have a question also. I'd like to make a comment to Andrew. You're blessed. You live in a country where there is a lot of vegetarian option, whereas in Canada, we do have vegetarian option, but we don't really. So you're very blessed to live in a country where you do have a lot of vegetarian options. So you're conditioned to be a vegetarian. It's a lot easier for you. And my question is, as far as taking the precepts for killing, let's say your livelihood, like in my case, I own restaurants and we do serve chicken and beef, so I have no choice. So if I take the precepts of killing indirectly, then I am also actually breaking the precepts. Is that correct?
It's very hard to give an answer to that. What I can say is that there is a Buddhist family who goes to GCDR, Gold Coast Dharma Realm, in our branch temple in Gold Coast, and they had a chain of sushi restaurants, and they were in a dilemma because they didn't know what really to do. Okay, so sometimes change or transformation can't be overnight. You need to be patient as well, especially when it comes to things that affect your livelihood. Because it's easy to say, oh, just be vegetarian, no killing. But sometimes a person's conditions are more complicated than that. So what this family did was, then, because they were sincere, they were always on the lookout on how they could solve their problem. And one day I got a call from them, and they were very happy because they were able to overcome this problem. Why? Because they constantly paid attention. And so I would say that when you say you have no choice, I would say don't give up. If you take the precepts, you try your best. Maybe once you apply yourself certain, it is only when you try your best that if, say, the Bodhisattva is standing by ready to help, that the Bodhisattva can create conditions for you to use. But if you are not looking and you are not paying attention, then even if the Bodhisattva tries to help, it's no use, because you don't see it. Okay. So what I would suggest is, personally, if you can, say for example, in a case like that, personally, if you can avoid consuming animals for food, then in your business you see what are the alternatives, and you just try your best. Yeah, because that is already your business is already something you have. It's not something you embark upon after you take the precepts. Okay, my advice may be different from other people. So I would say that take the 5 precepts. Go ahead, take the 5 precepts. Change your diet, and for your business, you try your best and see what opportunities may present itself. but don't let your business get in the way of you not taking the precepts. I think that would be a more unwise decision. All right.
Maybe you should change the menu, plant-based food.
That's one possibility. Yeah. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, Dharma Master.
All right. It's 10:45. Anyone else? Any more questions? Or anyone has any advice for someone in Andrew's and Saha's position? Anyone want to share anything? No? Okay, I was told to share this story. And this story is about me when I was taking the 5 precepts. I was not ready to take the 5 precepts. My mom came to my room and said, oh, they're going to transmit the 5 precepts. And my instinct was to say no. And I don't remember how old I was, 20 something, 30. Because, at that age, I had a lot of friends and I went out a lot. The 5 precepts was the total opposite of my lifestyle. And so I was very hesitant to take the 5 precepts, but I knew that I should, and so I reluctantly signed myself for the 5 precepts. So what happened was this. There's a particular dish that I've been consuming since young with my father. It was like a weekend ritual. It's a dish called bakute. It literally means is meat, pork bone soup. Yeah, something like that, pork bone soup. It's just a dish of medicinal soup with pork. That's it. And you eat it with rice. That's all. So pork, soup, and rice. And after taking the 5 precepts, I had a hard time adjusting to a vegetarian diet. I had a dream. In my dream, I wanted to eat that particular dish. But in my dream, strangely, I also remembered that I took the 5 precepts. Okay. So I said, I already taken the 5. This is exactly what happened in my dream. I said, I already taken the 5 precepts. I can't eat animal meat. But I know what I'll do. I'm going to cut a piece of meat from my leg. So you know how when you draw a cartoon, there's a round piece of meat with a round bone in the middle, like a slice of meat. That was in my dream. That was what I wanted to do. So I wanted to cut off a piece of meat from my thigh and cook it so I could eat that dish. All right. So it's not easy for people to change their diets. The 5 precepts are not easy. But just like everything in this world, when you are sincere and you apply yourself, over time, it gets easier and easier until you don't realize it anymore. So that's where the practice happens, where there's a transformation. And you do it to such a point that if your habits get strong enough, the commit seeds that you plant are so well done. Commit seeds also perfume other seeds, they influence other seeds, that then in your next life, when it's time to take the 5 precepts, if you're not in the Pure Land, then those right commit seeds will get activated and you will have less hesitation or no hesitation at all. Because in this life, you took the 5 precepts and you got used to it. All right? So think long term. Don't just think of 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Think 5 years down the road. Where will you be if you had taken the 5 precepts this month? Think of it that way. All right? Okay. Let's skip any more questions for next week. And let me get the transference, dedication of merit. Okay, everyone ready? Oh, I'm not ready. Hold on. Okay, there you go. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, let's do 3 bows to the Buddha. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Rebel Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Okay, Amitofu everyone, and we will see you next week.
Thank you, Dharma Master. Good night.